Sarah Mitchell becomes suspicious when Dr. Thompson, the family's trusted pediatrician for 5 years, starts calling her 9-year-old daughter Emma for private appointments every Thursday at 4 p.m. for 3 months straight. The girl always comes back with a red face and refuses to talk about the special exams, saying only that she can't tell because it's the doctor's secret. When Sarah finally discovers strange marks hidden under her daughter's clothing, what she will discover about the pediatrician will shock the entire community of Portland, Oregon. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back a few weeks when everything seemed perfectly normal in Sarah Mitchell's life. Sarah was 36 years old and worked as a nurse at Providence Portland Medical Center, a hospital that was a 20-minute drive from her home in the Laurelhurst neighborhood. She had been a single mother since her difficult divorce 2 years ago, when she discovered that her husband had a completely different life than the one he showed at home. Since then, Sarah dedicated every free minute to her daughter Emma, making up with love and attention for everything the girl had lost with the separation of her parents. Emma Mitchell was just 9 years old and was the kind of child who brightens up any room. Brown hair always tied in a ponytail, bright green eyes full of curiosity, and a wide smile that showed his front teeth a little apart. She loved to draw, spending hours creating comic books about superheroines who saved the world with kindness instead of violence. Emma attended Oak Hills Elementary School and was an exemplary student, always bringing home works with gold stars glued to them by her teacher. Their routine was simple but full of affection. Every morning, Sarah would wake up at 6:30, prepare pancakes or scrambled eggs, while Emma took a shower humming songs she learned at school. They would have breakfast together at the small kitchen table, talking about the plans for the day, about the drawings Emma was creating, about anything that came to mind. Sarah dropped her daughter off at school at 8 o'clock sharp and went straight to the hospital, where she worked in shifts that varied between morning and afternoon. Emma's grandmother, Sarah's mother, would pick up the girl from school and stay with her until Sarah got home, usually around 6 in the evening. In this video, you'll discover how one mother trusted her maternal instinct, even when everyone said she was overreacting. You'll see how small signs, which most would ignore, became the key to saving your daughter. Courage and determination can change everything in a matter of hours. Every detail here is based on true events, and what happened to Sarah and Emma may be happening right now with families you know. Dr. Richard Thompson was 52 years old and was considered one of the best pediatricians in and around the Laurelhurst neighborhood. He had been working in the office of the Healthy Kids Pediatrics Clinic for 15 years, always with an impeccable reputation. Mothers in the area recommended him to each other with genuine enthusiasm. "He's wonderful, so careful with the children," they said. "My son was afraid of a doctor, but with Dr. Thompson he was calm," commented another. Sarah had chosen him as Emma's pediatrician based on exactly these recommendations, and for 5 years she had never had any reason to question this decision. If you've made it this far, it's because real history interests you. Help this content reach more people, leave the like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. 6 months ago, when Emma turned 9, Sarah took her daughter to her annual routine appointment at Dr. Thompson's office. It was a sunny spring morning, and Emma was excited that after the appointment they were going to eat ice cream at her favorite ice cream shop, Salt and Straw, which was in downtown Portland. The consultation was absolutely normal. Dr. Thompson checked height, weight, heartbeat, asked the usual questions about food and sleep. He had a gentle way of talking to children, never treating them as fools or incapable. "Emma, you're growing up so well," he said that day, smiling as he jotted something down in his chart. Sarah remembered feeling grateful to have such a caring doctor take care of her daughter's health. The following weeks passed uneventfully. Emma continued to do well in school, drawing her stories, playing with her friends in the park near home on weekends. Sarah worked her shifts at the hospital, came home tired, but always with enough energy to listen to Emma tell about her day, to help with homework, to watch a movie together before bed. Life was simple, but complete. Sarah hadn't had a romantic relationship since the divorce. She didn't miss it. Everything she needed was there, in that small but cozy house, in that predictable and safe routine, in that wide smile of her daughter every morning. It was on a Tuesday in June that Sarah's phone rang during her lunch break at the hospital. She was sitting in the nurse's break room, eating a salad she had brought from home, when she saw the number of the Healthy Kids Pediatrics Clinic on the display. She thought it was strange because Emma had no appointment scheduled, but she answered imagining that it was just some confirmation of future scheduling or maybe some reminder about vaccines. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Dr. Thompson," said the voice on the other end of the line, professional and calm as ever. "I'm calling because I'd like to schedule some follow-up appointments with Emma." Sarah frowned, confused. "Follow-up on what, doctor?" he asked, putting his fork aside. "Is she sick?" The doctor gave a low, reassuring laugh. No, nothing like that. It's just a new protocol that we're implementing for girls of this age. A more detailed physical development follow-up. Nothing worrisome, just preventive. Sarah relaxed a little. "Oh, I see. And how often would it be? I thought we'd start with bi-weekly appointments, always on Thursdays at 4 in the afternoon, if that time works for you." Sarah mentally looked at the agenda. Thursday at 4 was a good time. She usually left the hospital at 3 on Thursdays, so there would be time to pick Emma up from her grandmother's house and take her to the doctor's office. "It does work, doctor. Does it start next week then?" "Exactly. See you on Thursday, Mrs. Mitchell." And he remembered to hang up before Sarah could ask any more questions. She stared at her phone for a few seconds, feeling something small and undefined bothering her in the back of her mind. But he shook his head, finishing the salad. It was just a preventive follow-up. There was no cause for concern. The following Thursday, Sarah arrived at the office with Emma at 3:50 p.m. The waiting room was empty, which was unusual because the clinic was normally full of children and parents. Emma was excited, dangling her legs in the blue chair at the reception, flipping through an old comic book that was there. "I think I'm going to draw a medical superhero, Mommy," she said, looking at Sarah with those bright green eyes. "One that heals people with superpowers." Sarah smiled, running her hand affectionately through her daughter's hair. "What a beautiful idea, my love." The receptionist, a blonde woman in her 40s named Linda, smiled at them. "Dr. Thompson is already waiting for you in room 3. You can go straight to it." Sarah stood up, taking Emma's hand, but Linda raised her hand politely. "In fact, Mrs. Mitchell, the doctor asked Emma to come in alone. It is part of the new protocol to create independence and confidence in children during exams." Sarah stopped halfway. "Alone? But she's only 9 years old." Linda kept her professional smile. "I understand the concern, but it's a practice recommended by child psychologists. It helps children develop autonomy over their own bodies and health. Of course, if there is any need, the doctor calls you." Sarah looked at Emma, who was calm, showing no fear. "All right, Mommy, I'm not afraid of Dr. Thompson," said the girl, smiling. Still, Sarah felt something tighten lightly in her chest. "But I didn't want to be the overprotective mother, the mother who doesn't let her daughter grow up." Then he took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, I'll be here waiting, my love. Anything, you can call me." Emma waved and followed the hallway to room 3, disappearing behind the door that closed with a soft click. Sarah returned to the blue chair and reached for her cell phone, trying to distract herself by checking messages, but his eyes kept coming back to the clock on the wall. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes. 15. 20. 30. She began to shift in her chair, restless. How long did pediatric consultations typically last? He tried to remember his previous appointments with Emma. They were usually quick, no more than 20 minutes. At 40 minutes, Sarah was about to get up to go to the living room when the door finally opened. Emma walked out slowly, her eyes fixed on the floor. Sarah immediately noticed that her daughter's cheeks were very red, almost as if she had run or cried. He got up quickly. "Emma, is everything okay, my love?" Emma looked up and forced a small smile. "Yes, it is, Mum. It was just the normal exam." Sarah knelt in front of her daughter, holding her shoulders gently. "You have a very red face. Did something happen?" The girl shook her head quickly. No, it's just that it was hot inside. Dr. Thompson forgot to turn on the air conditioning." Sarah looked into Emma's eyes, looking for something, anything that indicated there was more to it than her daughter was saying. But Emma kept her smile, and Sarah didn't want to press her in front of the receptionist. Then she got up, took her daughter's hand, and left the office. During the drive home, she tried to strike up a conversation. "And how was the exam? What did the doctor do?" Emma was looking out the window, distracted. Normal stuff. He measured my height again. He listened to my heart. These things." Sarah waited, but Emma added nothing more. "He just kept looking out at the trees that were passing fast on the street." That night, after Emma went to sleep, Sarah sat alone in the living room with a cup of tea in her hands, staring into space. Something wasn't right. She couldn't put her finger exactly on what it was, but there was something. Emma's red face, the way she avoided looking him in the eye, the silence in the car. Sarah shook her head, taking a sip of the tea. "I was exaggerating. It was just a doctor's appointment." Emma was fine. Everything was fine. But even trying to convince himself of this, the tightness in his chest did not go away completely. If this revelation is arousing in you a deep curiosity about what really happened, comment. Right now I want more stories, and please leave your like on this video. The second Thursday came faster than Sarah expected. During the week, she watched Emma with extra attention, looking for any sign that something was wrong. But the girl looked normal. She kept drawing, laughing at Sarah's silly jokes at breakfast, telling lively stories about her school friends. Sarah began to relax. Maybe it really was just paranoia. Maybe the red face was just the heat. Children turn red for anything. On Wednesday, the phone rang again. It was the doctor's office, confirming the appointment for the next day at 4 in the afternoon. Sarah thanked him and hung up. But during the night, as she was preparing dinner, she felt that strange tightness returning. Why had Dr. Thompson created this new protocol so suddenly? She had worked as a nurse for 12 years, had contact with several doctors, and had never heard of bi-weekly follow-up for healthy children. He decided that at the next day's appointment, he would ask for more details. Thursday, 3:50 p.m. Sarah and Emma re-entered the clinic's empty waiting room. This time, Sarah was determined. When Linda smiled and said that Emma should go in alone, Sarah shook her head. "In fact, I'd like to speak briefly with Dr. Thompson first. Can you ask him to leave for a minute?" Linda looked slightly surprised but kept her politeness. "Of course, Mrs. Mitchell. Just a moment." She disappeared down the hallway and returned 2 minutes later with Dr. Thompson by her side. He was wearing the impeccable white coat, stethoscope hanging around his neck, thin-framed glasses on his face. "Mrs. Mitchell, is there a problem?" he asked in that professional and slightly concerned tone. Sarah suddenly felt silly. "No, it's not a problem. I just wanted to better understand this new protocol. Why are such frequent consultations?" The doctor smiled, as if the question was perfectly reasonable. "Of course, I understand your concern. It is a protocol that we are testing, based on recent studies on early pubertal development in girls. Nothing alarming, but the sooner we identify any irregularity, the better. Consultations include detailed physical measurements, postural assessment, verification of signs of development. All very standard but frequent precisely to accompany subtle changes." Sarah processed the words. It seemed to make sense. Early pubertal development was something she had heard about in the hospital, and it made sense that more frequent follow-up could identify problems early. "Right? And do you do that to all girls that age?" Dr. Thompson nodded. "With all those who are in this critical range, between 8 and 10 years. It's preemptive, Ms. Mitchell. Think of it as an investment in Emma's future health. Sarah took a deep breath and nodded. She was feeling calmer now. Okay. Thank you for explaining, Doctor. Emma went in alone again, and Sarah returned to the blue chair. This time, she tried to be more relaxed, scrolling through her Instagram feed on her cell phone, looking at photos of old college classmates, recipes she would never make, beautiful landscapes. But when the clock struck 50 minutes and Emma still hadn't left, Sarah began to tense up again. At 55 minutes, the door finally opened. Emma walked out slowly again, and this time Sarah noticed something different. The daughter was not only red-faced, she was too quiet, completely quiet. His eyes fixed on the ground, his shoulders slightly slumped. Sarah stood up quickly. "Emma, how was it?" Emma looked up and gave a smile that didn't reach them. "It was good, Mum. Shall we leave?" The voice was different, lower, more restrained. In the car, Sarah tried to talk. "So, what did the doctor do today?" Emma was looking out the window again. "He measured several things: height, weight, these things." Sarah waited, but Emma did not continue. "What else, my love?" The girl took a long time to answer. "He asked me not to tell details because it's a doctor's thing, something that adults who are not doctors don't understand well. And he said that if I tell you wrong, I can make you worried for no reason." Sarah felt an N clenching in her throat. "What do you mean by details, Emma?" "What details?" Emma finally looked at her mother, and there was something in her eyes that Sarah had never seen before. A mixture of confusion and fear, and something she couldn't name. "I can't talk, Mom. It's a medical secret. The doctor explained that it is important, that it is part of the treatment, that I keep it a secret." Sarah felt her heart race. "But what treatment, Emma? You're not sick." The girl looked out the window again. "I know, Mom. It's just a way of talking. You can count on me. It's all right." The rest of the way was in silence. Sarah drove with her hands clenched on the wheel, trying to process what she had just heard. Medical secrecy. He cannot tell details. Leave you worried for no reason. The words echoed in her mind, each one of them setting off small alarms. But at the same time, she tried to be rational. Dr. Thompson was a respected physician, 15 years of career, dozens of satisfied families. He wouldn't do anything wrong. It would just be her paranoia, the overprotective mother she always was. But that night, when she went to say goodnight to Emma, Sarah noticed something. The daughter was lying on the bed, with her back to the door, curled up under the blanket. Usually she slept on her back, arms open, occupying all the space of the small bed. Sarah entered slowly. "Good night, my love." Emma mumbled something that Sarah didn't understand. She approached and sat on the edge of the bed, putting her hand on her daughter's shoulder. Emma cringed slightly, almost imperceptibly, but Sarah felt it. His heart tightened painfully in his chest. "Emma, you can tell me anything. You know that, don't you?" whispered Sarah. "It doesn't matter what it is. I will always protect you. I will always believe in you." Emma was silent for a long moment. Then he murmured, still with his back turned, "I know, Mom. I love you. But that's okay, I promise." Sarah sat there for a few more minutes, her hand still on her daughter's shoulder, feeling the tightness in her chest increase by the second. Something was wrong. She knew. Deep down, somewhere deep and instinctive, she knew. But what to do? I had no proof. There was nothing concrete. Just a bad feeling, a tightness in my chest, a strange feeling that I couldn't explain. If she accused Dr. Thompson for no reason, she could destroy an innocent man's reputation. It might sound crazy. She could lose the trust of Emma, who was clearly trying to be brave and independent. Sarah got up slowly, gave her daughter a kiss on the head, and left the room. But that night, she couldn't sleep with it. But what happened in the next few hours would destroy all the certainties she had. The next 2 weeks were something of a slow torture for Sarah. During the day, I worked in the hospital trying to keep my mind busy, but any moment of pause was immediately filled with thoughts about Emma, about the appointments, about Dr. Thompson. At night, she watched her daughter with obsessive attention, looking for any sign, any change, anything that could explain that constant tightness in her chest. And there were signs. Small, subtle, but they were there. Emma began to wake up less excited on Thursdays. On the morning of the third appointment, she came down to breakfast with a pale face and said she had a stomachache. Sarah put her hand on her forehead. He did not have a fever. "Do you think you need to miss school, my love?" Emma shook her head quickly. No, I think it passes. Maybe I ate something weird yesterday." But at 3:30 p.m., when Sarah went to pick Emma up from her grandmother's house to go to the doctor's office, the girl said again that her belly was hurting. Sarah knelt in front of her, worried. "Do you want me to call Dr. Thompson and cancel the appointment?" Emma's reaction was strange. For a second there was hope in her eyes, but then she shook her head. "No, Mom. He said that it is important not to be absent, that the monitoring needs to be right. Come on, I can handle it." That set off another alarm bell in Sarah's mind. Had the doctor told Emma that she couldn't miss it? What kind of doctor puts pressure on a child like that? The consultation was even longer, an hour and 10 minutes. When Emma came out, her eyes were slightly swollen, as if she had cried. Sarah jumped to her feet. "Emma, what happened? Are you crying?" The girl wiped her eyes quickly. "No, Mum, it's an allergy. There's a lot of pollen in the air." Sarah looked around. They were inside an air-conditioned clinic. There was no pollen there. But Emma was already walking toward the exit, and Sarah had to follow her. In the car, Sarah tried again. "Emma, please tell me what's going on in these appointments." The daughter fastened her seatbelt and stared at her hands in her lap. "I already told you, Mom. They are exams. The doctor needs to check how I'm growing." Sarah felt the frustration rising. "But what kind of exam makes you cry, my love?" Emma sighed, a sound too tired for a 9-year-old. "I wasn't crying. And even if it was, the doctor said that sometimes girls get emotional during the consultation because it is a delicate process, but it is part of it, that I need to be brave." Sarah squeezed the steering wheel so hard that her knuckles turned white. "You don't have to be brave at a doctor's appointment, Emma. You need to feel safe." Emma finally looked at her mother, and there was irritation in her voice now. "Mommy, you don't understand. It's a doctor's thing." "Doctor, Thompson has studied for many years. He knows what he is doing. You're making a problem out of nothing." Sarah felt like she had been slapped. Her daughter had never spoken to her like that, with that impatient and slightly condescending tone. And worse, those were not Emma's words. They were adult words put in her mouth. These were Dr. Thompson's words, but Sarah didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to break that wall that was building between her and her daughter. Then he drove quietly home, feeling his heart broken into small, painful pieces. That night, after Emma went to sleep, Sarah did something she had never done before. He took out his cell phone and started researching. Follow-up protocol in prepubertal girls, frequent pediatric consultations, early pubertal development. I read article after article, looking for any mention of bi-weekly consultations, of detailed examinations that had to be done without the parents present, of medical secrets between doctor and child patient. And he found nothing, absolutely nothing, that resembled what Dr. Thompson was doing. At 2 in the morning, Sarah was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open, her eyes burning with fatigue, her heart racing. She had opened a new search tab and typed something that made her feel sick: signs of medical abuse in children. The results appeared on the screen, and Sarah began to read. Changes in behavior, fear or reluctance to go to appointments, secrets that the child refuses to reveal, physical reactions such as crying or redness after consultations, change in sleep pattern, emotional withdrawal. Sarah felt her blood run cold. Emma had all those signs. Everyone. She closed her laptop tightly and put her hands on her face, trying to control her breathing that was getting short and fast. No, it couldn't be. Dr. Thompson was respected. It was recommended. He had a 15-year career. But the voice inside her, that deep, instinctive, motherly voice, was screaming. I was screaming that something was terribly, horribly wrong. The next day, during her lunch break at the hospital, Sarah did something she had been avoiding. She discreetly sought out two more experienced nurse colleagues and casually asked if they had ever heard of frequent follow-up protocols for prepubertal girls. They both looked at her with a confused expression. Frequent follow-up, as one of them asked. Jessica, a pediatric nurse with 20 years of experience. Sarah explained, bi-weekly consultations, detailed physical exams, without the parents present. Jessica frowned. I've never heard of it, and it doesn't make sense. Routine pediatric consultations are annual, at most biannual if there is a specific condition, and physical examinations in children should always be done with the parents present, or at least with the option of being present. It is a basic protection protocol for both the doctor and the child. Sarah felt the ground disappear from beneath her feet. But what if it is a new study? A protocol being tested? He asked, his voice coming out more desperate than he intended. The other nurse, Mariana, shook her head. New studies with children need approval from an ethics committee, informed consent from parents, extensive documentation. It's not something a doctor simply implements alone in the office. Sarah, what's going on? Is it about your daughter? Sarah did not answer. He mumbled some excuse and left the break room, walking quickly down the corridor to the bathroom. He locked himself in a cabin and leaned his back against the cold door, his breath coming in short bursts. Oh my God, oh my God, she was right. Something was wrong, very wrong, and she had let Emma go to those appointments 3 times already. 3 times. She had put her daughter in that man's hands 3 times. Guilt came like a suffocating wave, but along with the guilt came something stronger, fury. A deep, burning, maternal fury that started deep in her stomach and spread throughout her body like wildfire. If that man had done anything to Emma, anything, Sarah was going to destroy him. It didn't matter what reputation he was. It didn't matter how many years of career he had. It didn't matter how many families recommended him. If he had hurt her daughter, Sarah would go all the way. But first, he needed proof. I couldn't just accuse without evidence. He needed to be smart, strategic. So Sarah came out of the bathroom, washed her face with cold water, and began to make a plan. If you're here so far, it's because this story is stirring you. What follows will show the exact moment when everything changed. Therefore, at the end of this video, we will reveal the complete outcome with details that few know. Stay with me until the end. Sarah spent the next few days discreetly chatting with other mothers in the school parking lot. She needed to know if Emma was the only one going through those appointments, or if there were other girls. On Tuesday, while waiting for Emma to leave art class after school, Sarah struck up a casual conversation with 3 mums nearby. "You take your daughters to Dr. Thompson of the Healthy Kids Clinic?" Sarah asked, keeping her tone light. The 3 looked at her and smiled. One of them, a red-haired woman named Patricia, responded immediately. "Yes, I do. He's wonderful, isn't he? My Sophie loved him." Sarah felt her heart race. Did you love it? Did she change doctors? Patricia shook her head. No. It's just that she grew up. She's already 11 years old, so now she's going to another pediatrician specializing in pre-teens. But when she was younger, Dr. Thompson took great care of her. He even saved her from pneumonia that almost went unnoticed. Another mother, an Asian woman named Linda, enthusiastically agreed. "My Chloe goes on it too. He's so careful, so thoughtful. Don't you think, Sarah?" Sarah forced a smile. "I think so. In fact, he started a more frequent follow-up with Emma. Consultations every 15 days. Have you also been through this?" The 3 mothers exchanged glances and returned to Sarah with confused expressions. "Bi-weekly consultations?" asked Linda. "No, never. Chloe only goes to the normal appointments, 1 a year." Why did he ask Emma for that? Sarah felt her stomach turn. "He said that it is a new protocol to monitor development. None of your daughters had it." Patricia frowned. "No, I've never heard of that." And look, I know at least 10 families who go to it. No one has ever commented on such frequent consultations. Sarah, are you sure everything is okay? Maybe you should ask him for more details." Sarah mumbled that yes, that she was going to ask, and the conversation changed the subject, but she was barely listening. The mind was racing, connecting dots, building a picture that grew more sinister by the second. If it was a new protocol, why did Emma seem to be the only one going through it? Why hadn't Dr. Thompson mentioned this to other mothers? And more importantly, what exactly was he doing with Emma during those long, secret consultations? That afternoon, Sarah made a decision. At the next appointment, which would be 2 days away, she was going to try to record. He had a small voice recorder that he sometimes used to record reminders during long shifts at the hospital. It was discreet, the size of a pen drive. If she put it in Emma's backpack, hidden in the background, she might be able to pick up on what was happening in those appointments. On Thursday morning, while Emma was eating breakfast, Sarah discreetly placed the recorder in the inside pocket of her daughter's backpack, already on and recording. He felt bad for doing that without Emma knowing, but there was no choice. I needed to find out the truth. At 3:50, they were again in the empty waiting room. Sarah was on edge, her hands sweating, her heart beating so hard she was sure everyone could hear. Emma entered the exam room carrying her backpack, as she always did. Sarah sat in the blue chair and waited. 50 minutes. 50 minutes that seemed like 5 hours. When Emma finally left, Sarah almost ran up to her. "And come on, my love," she said, taking her daughter's hand and quickly leaving the clinic. In the car, Emma seemed more distant than ever. He was looking out the window with a blank expression, his eyes red again. Sarah drove home, trying to stay calm, trying not to speed past the speed limit, trying not to look desperate. When they arrived, Emma said she was tired and went straight to her room. Sarah waited 10 minutes. So he went to his daughter's room, and with some excuse about needing to borrow a book from his backpack, he took the backpack and took it to the kitchen. With her hand shaking, Sarah opened her inner pocket and picked up the tape recorder. He pressed the stop button and went back to the beginning. He put on his headset and hit play. The first 3 minutes were normal sounds. Steps. Emma's voice saying, "Good afternoon, Dr. Thompson." His voice responding, "Hello, Emma. How are you today?" Sound of door closing. Sound of backpack being placed somewhere. And then, silence. Sarah frowned. He turned up the volume. There was only silence. And then, at 3 minutes and 20 seconds, Dr. Thompson's voice, very close to the tape recorder, almost whispering, "Let's get this backpack out of here, honey, so you're more comfortable." Sound of zipper opening. Sound of something being moved. And then, nothing. Complete silence until the end of the recording. Sarah took off her headset and stared at the tape recorder in her hands. He had hung up. Dr. Thompson had found the recorder and turned it off. He knew. He was careful, meticulous. He checked the children's backpack before appointments. Sarah felt panic creeping up her throat. If he had found the tape recorder, he knew Sarah was suspicious. And if he knew that, what would he do? Would he try to protect himself? Would it cover the tracks? Would it convince Sarah that she was crazy? Or worse, would it hurt Emma in any way to ensure her silence? But along with the panic was another terrifying realization. The fact that he had searched for and found the recorder proved that he had something to hide. Innocent doctors don't rummage through patients' backpacks. Innocent doctors are not afraid of being recorded. Sarah was dealing with someone experienced, someone who knew exactly what they were doing, someone who had done it before and had a system in place to avoid getting caught. Sarah placed the tape recorder in the kitchen drawer with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. I needed another plan, but this time he could not use Emma as an investigative tool. It was too dangerous. She needed help. I needed to talk to someone. But who? The police would laugh at her. She had no proof, only suspicions. The medical board would take months to investigate, if at all. The other mothers would not believe her. They all thought Dr. Thompson was a saint. Then Sarah remembered. There was a mother, there in the school parking lot last week, who had hesitated when Sarah mentioned the appointments. Patricia had said that her daughter Sophie had gone to Dr. Thompson when she was younger. Sarah pulled out her phone and looked up Patricia's number, which she had saved months ago from a group of mothers at school. He called, his heart in his mouth. Patricia answered on the third ring. "Hello? Sarah?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Hi, Patricia. Sorry to call like this out of nowhere. I need to ask you something about Dr. Thompson." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "What do you want to know?" Sarah chose her words carefully. When Sophie went to him, he did exams. "Private individuals? Without you present? Have you noticed any change in her behavior?" The break was longer this time, so long that Sarah thought Patricia had hung up. Then the voice came, low and cautious. "Why are you asking this?" Sarah felt tears burning in her eyes. "Because Emma is changed, because I think something is going on in these consultations, and I need to know if I'm crazy or if my gut is right." Another silence. Sarah could hear Patricia's breathing on the other side. Then finally the voice came, little more than a whisper. Sophie was also weird for a few months when she was 8 years old. She had frequent appointments with him. She said they were special. She stopped sleeping well. He stopped eating properly. He had nightmares. But when I asked, she said that everything was fine, that it was just the exams, and then all of a sudden the consultation stopped. He said that she had passed that critical phase and no longer needed the follow-up. And little by little, Sophie returned to normal, so I convinced myself that it had just been a difficult phase of growth. Sarah was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. "Patricia, do you think he did something to Sophie?" On the other side, Sarah heard a sob. "I do not know. I didn't let it be known. Because if I knew, if I admitted it, I would have to face that I put my daughter in the hands of someone who... That..." His voice broke. "Sarah, I can't do that. I can't open that door now. Sophie is fine. She's growing, she's happy. If I start asking, if I start investigating, I'll destroy her again." Sarah understood. He understood Patricia's fear. He understood the need to believe that everything was fine. He understood the desperate desire to protect his daughter, even if it meant pretending that nothing had happened. But Sarah couldn't do that. Not while Emma was still going to those appointments. Not while Dr. Thompson still had access to her daughter. "Patricia, I need to find out the truth, and I need to stop him. If you want to help me, I appreciate it. If you don't want to, I understand. But I'm going to do it anyway." Patricia was silent for a long moment. Then he said, his voice trembling, "He has 2 more mothers. I don't know the names, but I saw comments in an online group of neighborhood parents months ago. Mothers asking if it was normal for pediatricians to ask children to keep secrets. At the time, I ignored it because I didn't want to think about it. But maybe if you look, you'll find them. And Sarah, be careful. If he's what you think he is, he'll protect himself. It's going to make you look crazy. It will turn people against you." Sarah thanked him and hung up. She sat there in the kitchen while the afternoon turned to night outside, her cell phone in hand, her mind working frantically. She had to be smart. I had to gather evidence. But more importantly, he had to protect Emma. I couldn't let her go to another appointment. I couldn't risk it. If this story is already changing the way you see maternal protection, like, subscribe and activate the bell in this video so that this message reaches other mothers. Sarah spent all night browsing online groups of parents in the Laurelhurst and Portland neighborhood. He found the group Patricia had mentioned, a discussion forum with hundreds of members. Used the search function to search for old posts. He typed in keywords, pediatrician, secret Dr. Thompson, frequent consultations. He found 3 posts. The first was from 14 months ago, a mother using an anonymous username asking if it was normal for the pediatrician to ask her 7-year-old daughter to keep secrets about the exams. The answers were varied. Some mothers said yes, that it was to create autonomy. Others said no, that children should not have secrets with their parents. One or two suggested seeing another doctor if she was uncomfortable, but no response took the situation seriously. None suggested that this could be a sign of something sinister. The second post was from 8 months ago. Another anonymous mother asking if Dr. Richard Thompson of the Healthy Kids Clinic was recommended. The responses were enthusiastically positive. Yes, he's great. My 3 children were his patients. He saved my daughter when she had pneumonia, super attentive and careful. Sarah felt sick reading those answers, knowing what she knew now. The third post was the most recent, from just 5 months ago. Another anonymous mother, but this time the question was more direct. Has anyone else had problems with Dr. Thompson asking for very frequent appointments and tests that make his daughters uncomfortable? Sarah stopped breathing, rolled to the answers. There were only 4. 3 were defensive. No, I've never had a problem. He's a professional. 1 was different. A user named MomOf2 2015 had replied, I sent a private message. Sarah clicked on MomOf2 2015's profile. It was an active account, with several recent posts about children's birthday parties and school recommendations. Sarah clicked Send Private Message and typed quickly, Hi, I saw your comment on the post about Dr. Thompson. I'm going through a similar situation with my daughter. Could you talk to me? It is urgent. He sent it and stared at the screen, knowing that it was the middle of the night and that he probably wouldn't get an answer until the next day. But 5 minutes later, her phone vibrated. A new message. Sarah opened it with trembling hands. The answer was short. Can we talk tomorrow? Coffee at 10 a.m.? There's a Starbucks on the corner of Broadway and Morrison. I'll be at the back table, wearing a green coat. My name is Jennifer. Sarah responded immediately. I'll be there. Thank you. He barely managed to sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence of the house, thinking of Emma sleeping in the next room, thinking of Sophie, Patricia's daughter, thinking of the other girls who might have passed through Dr. Thompson's hands. How many were there? 5? 10? More? In the morning, Sarah called the hospital saying she was sick and couldn't go to work. He dropped Emma off at school and drove straight to Starbucks. She arrived 20 minutes early, ordered a coffee she had no intention of drinking, and sat down at a table at the back. At 10 o'clock, a woman in her 40s with short black hair, wearing a green coat as promised, entered the cafe. She looked around, saw Sarah, and walked up to her. "You're Sarah?" she asked, her voice low. Sarah nodded. Jennifer sat up, putting her bag in her lap, her eyes red as if she had recently cried or slept little. "How long has her daughter been going on, Dr. Thompson?" Jennifer asked bluntly. 5 years, Sarah replied, but the special consultations began 3 months ago. Jennifer nodded slowly. "My daughter Lily had been in it since she was 5 years old. When she turned 7, he started these special appointments. He said it was preventive follow-up. They lasted 6 months. Then they stopped." "And what happened?" Sarah asked, her voice coming out in a tense whisper. Jennifer looked down at her own hands, her fingers clasped tightly on the table. "Lily changed completely during those 6 months." He stopped smiling. "I had nightmares every night. I woke up screaming. He began to be afraid of men. Any man, even his own father. He stopped eating properly, lost weight. And I asked every day what was happening, but she didn't speak. He said it was a secret that he couldn't tell." Sarah felt the tears burning in her eyes. "And did you take her to another doctor, to a psychologist?" Jennifer nodded slowly. "I took it to a child psychologist. The therapist talked to Lily for months, and finally, after 4 months of therapy, Lily told me. She said that Dr. Thompson touched her in ways that made her uncomfortable. Who took pictures? Who said it was to follow her growth, but that she couldn't tell anyone because adults wouldn't understand. They would think she was lying. They would be mad at her." Jennifer's voice broke. "My 7-year-old daughter carried this weight alone for months because a man I trusted, a man I put in her hands, manipulated her into being silent." Sarah was crying openly now. "And did you report it? Did you go to the police?" Jennifer wiped her own eyes with the back of her hand. I tried. I went to the police station, told them everything. They opened an investigation. But do you know what happened? Dr. Thompson had excellent lawyers. He presented detailed documentation of all the consultations, saying that they were standard pediatric tests, that everything was legitimate and necessary. He presented letters of recommendation from dozens of families. He presented certificates, credentials, years of impeccable reputation. And against all this, there was only the word of a 7-year-old girl who, according to his lawyers, could be confused or influenced by the therapist. Sarah felt anger boiling inside her. Didn't they believe your daughter? Jennifer shook her head, bitter. Oh, they believed enough to investigate, but not enough to accuse. They said there was no concrete physical evidence. The photos Lily mentioned were never found. He probably destroyed them as soon as he realized I was suspicious. The marks on her body had already disappeared. And with no physical evidence, no witnesses, nothing but the testimony of a child against the word of a respected doctor, the prosecutor said he had no case. The investigation was shelved. Sarah put her hands on her face, trying to process it all. And Lily? How is she now? Jennifer took a deep breath. She's better. He still does therapy. He probably will do it for years. There are good days and bad days. But it's alive, it's growing, it's learning to trust again. And I thank her every day for taking her out of those appointments when I did. Because if I had continued longer, if I hadn't finally listened to my instinct, I don't know what would have happened to her. Sarah wiped away her tears and looked directly at Jennifer. I need to stop him. I need to protect Emma and any other girl he might be doing this. But are you telling me that even if I go to the police, even if Emma tells everything, he can escape again? Jennifer held Sarah's hand across the table. It can. It probably will. He's smart, Sarah. He knows how the system works. He knows how to cover his tracks. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. It means you need to be smarter than him. It needs concrete evidence. It needs evidence that cannot be denied or explained. And it needs more than one victim talking. The more mothers join, the stronger the case becomes. Sarah nodded, her mind already working. You said you've seen comments online from other moms. Do you think of anything else that might help me find them? Jennifer took out her phone and started looking. There's a mother. I saved her username because the message she wrote was very similar to what I was feeling at the time. She turned her phone to Sarah. The username was Worried Mom 2024. Sarah quickly wrote it down on her own cell phone. I'll try to get in touch. Jennifer, thank you so much for finding me, for telling me this. I know it was hard. Jennifer stood up, grabbing her bag. It was. It still is. But if you can get what I couldn't, if you can stop him, then maybe Lily and all the other girls can get some justice. Watch out, Sarah. He won't let you destroy his life without a fight. Sarah saw Jennifer leave the cafe and sat there for a few more minutes, staring at the cold coffee in front of her, feeling the weight of everything she had discovered. It had to be strategic. He had to be smart. And most of all, he had to protect Emma. That afternoon, Sarah spent hours searching online, looking for the user Worried Mom 2024 in every parenting group she could find. Finally, on a child health forum, she found a post of hers from 6 months ago. My daughter is having frequent appointments with the pediatrician and coming home different, sad, closed. Is it normal for 8-year-olds to have such frequent appointments? Should I be worried? Sarah sent a private message immediately. Hi, I saw your post about frequent consultations. I'm going through the same situation. Please, I need to talk to you. Is it about Dr. Thompson? The answer came 2 hours later. Yes. How did you know? Sarah responded quickly. Because my daughter is also going through this, and I found out that it's not normal protocol. Can we talk? The answer was a phone number. Sarah called immediately. The woman on the other end identified herself as Michelle. She had an 8-year-old daughter named Grace, who had undergone special consultations with Dr. Thompson for 4 months, until Michelle finally put an end to it due to severe changes in her daughter's behavior. She stopped eating, had panic attacks before appointments, cried for no apparent reason, Michelle said, her voice heavy. When I finally sat down with her and promised that I wouldn't let anything bad happen, she told me that the doctor made her take off all her clothes and touched her in ways that hurt and were strange. He said it was to see if she was growing up right, but that it was their special secret. Sarah felt nausea rising. Did you go to the police? Michelle sighed. I went. But the same thing happened as with another mother who contacted me, Jennifer. They investigated, but said they did not have enough evidence. His lawyers dismantled everything. And worse, Sarah, he turned things against me. It started to spread in the neighborhood that I was a hysterical mother, that I was making false accusations because I had mental problems, that I was putting ideas in my daughter's head. Some mothers who were friends of mine stopped talking to me. They looked at me as if I was crazy or dangerous. It was horrible. Sarah took a deep breath. But you know he's guilty. And I know. And Jennifer knows. If the three of us get together, with our 3 daughters, with 3 independent testimonies describing the same pattern of behavior, maybe it will be different. Maybe this time he won't escape. Michelle was silent for a moment. Are you willing to go through what I've been through? To be called crazy, hysterical, a mother who is destroying the life of an innocent man? Losing friends, being isolated, having to look at your daughter every day and explain why you're going through that? Sarah looked out the kitchen window, seeing Emma playing in the small backyard, drawing in her usual notebook. Yes, he answered in a firm voice, because if I don't do anything, he'll continue. It will do this with more girls. And I can't live knowing that I had the chance to stop him and I didn't try. Michelle took a deep breath. Okay. Let's try again. But this time we do it right. We need evidence that cannot be denied. Physical evidence, recordings, something concrete. Sarah told about the failed attempt to record with the recorder in her backpack. Michelle made a sound of understanding. He's smart. Check everything before appointments. But what if the recording wasn't in the backpack? What if it was in the child himself? Sarah frowned. How so? Michelle explained. There are small equipment, tiny microphones that can be sewn inside the suit. My ex-husband worked as a security guard. He told me about it once. They are used by police officers in undercover operations. If we got one of those and put it inside Emma's clothes, he wouldn't notice. I would record everything. Sarah felt hope and fear at the same time. But to put Emma in this situation again, knowing what he does, would be to use his own daughter as bait. It would be putting her in danger again. Michelle sighed. I know. It's horrible. But think so, Sarah. If you just stop taking her to appointments, what happens? He will look for another victim. He will find another girl whose parents trust him, and it will do the same thing. At least this way, we control the situation. We are prepared, and we catch him with irrefutable evidence. Sarah was silent, the internal conflict tearing her inside. After a long moment, he said, Let me think about it. I'll talk to Jennifer too. If we are going to do this, it has to be together. The 3 of them, with a solid plan. And maybe involving the police first, so that they are ready to act the moment we have the evidence. Michelle agreed. Call me when you decide. But Sarah, whatever you decide, doesn't take Emma to another appointment unprotected. Not alone. Not again. Promise? Sarah promised. That night, after putting Emma to sleep, Sarah stayed up late researching hidden tape recorders about legislation on crimes against children, about how evidence is collected in cases of abuse. The more I read, the more I realized the complexity of what I was facing. It wasn't just about catching a man doing something wrong. It was about building a case that would hold up in court, that couldn't be dismantled by expensive lawyers, that would protect victims while exposing the culprit. Over the weekend, Sarah called Jennifer and told her about the conversation with Michelle. The 3 decided to meet in person on Sunday afternoon in a remote park where they could talk without being seen or heard. It was a cloudy and cold day, typical of Portland in the fall. The 3 women sat on a wooden bench, while their daughters played together on the playground, unaware that they shared a common trauma. "We have to go to the police," said Jennifer, "but this time we are prepared. We go together with our 3 daughters, with our 3 independent testimonies. We will demand that they take it seriously, that they carry out a real operation." Michelle agreed. "And if they say they can't do anything without more evidence, we offer to do the operation with a tape recorder, but with police protection, with undercover cops in the waiting room, ready to jump in if something goes wrong. Do not put our daughters at risk without a safety net." Sarah looked at Emma, who was laughing as she went down the slide. "How long has it been since you took your daughters out of appointments?" she asked. Jennifer replied. 2 years, Michelle replied. 8 months. Sarah took a deep breath. Emma is still going. The next appointment is next Thursday. The 2 women looked at her in horror. "Sarah, you can't take her," Jennifer said immediately. "I know," replied Sarah, "but if I cancel suddenly, he will be suspicious. You'll know I've discovered something, and it can destroy any evidence that still exists. It can prepare legally. It can even get away. We have to act fast before he realizes that we are organizing." Michelle leaned forward. "So we're going to the police tomorrow. Monday morning, first thing. We go together, we tell everything, we demand immediate action, and if they agree to do a flagrant operation, we do it on Thursday, at Emma's appointment, but only if they guarantee total security." Jennifer nodded. "What if they don't agree? If they say they can't do anything?" Sarah replied in a harsh voice. "So let's go ahead alone. We do it ourselves. We record, document, and then take everything to the press if necessary. This man will no longer hurt any children, not if it depends on me." The 3 women spent the rest of the afternoon planning every detail. They decided they would go to the Portland Central Precinct, not the precinct in the neighborhood where Dr. Thompson had connections and reputation. They would ask to speak specifically to a detective in the child crime unit, someone trained and experienced in these cases. They would take written documentation of everything, dates of consultations, descriptions of changes in behavior, names of other possible victims. They would do it the right way. Monday morning, Sarah called the hospital saying she was sick and couldn't work. Jennifer took the day off from her work at an accounting office. Michelle, who worked from home as a graphic designer, rearranged her schedule. At 9 in the morning, the 3 were sitting in the Central Police Station, waiting to speak to someone from the specialized unit. They were met by a detective named Laura Chen, an Asian American woman in her 40s with a serious expression but gentle eyes. Detective Chen took them to a private interview room and listened as each told their story. Sarah talked about the 3 months of consultations, about the changes in Emma, about the secrets, about the tape recorder that was discovered and turned off. Jennifer told about Lily, about the 6 months of nightmares, about the confession to the therapist, about the previous investigation that was filed. Michelle described Grace, the 4-month appointments, the panic attacks, the confession about inappropriate touching. The detective wrote everything down meticulously, asking specific questions, asking for specific details. When they finished, Detective Chen put his pen aside and looked at the 3 women. "I'll be honest with you. Cases like this are extremely difficult to prove, especially when they involve a respected figure in the community with resources to defend themselves. The previous investigation was shelved for lack of physical evidence, and the descriptions you are giving, while consistent with each other, are still based primarily on testimonies from young children." Sarah felt her heart sink. "So you won't do anything?" Chen raised his hand. "I didn't say that. He said that it is difficult, not impossible. The fact that we now have 3 victims reporting identical patterns of behavior at different times significantly strengthens the case. This indicates a modus operandi, not isolated incidents. And the detail about the tape recorder that was discovered and turned off is particularly interesting because it suggests awareness of guilt. Why would an innocent doctor look for and turn off a tape recorder? Sarah felt hope returning. So are you going to investigate? Chen nodded. Yes, but I need the three girls to make formal statements with experts in child interviews. I need access to medical records from all appointments. You have to build a solid case before you make any direct moves against Dr. Thompson, because if he realizes that we're investigating and has the opportunity to destroy evidence, we lose everything. Sarah leaned forward. He has an appointment with my daughter on Thursday. If he continues to do what he's doing, we can catch him red-handed, recorded with real-time evidence. Chen looked at Sarah for a long moment. Are you suggesting using your daughter as bait in a police operation? Sarah swallowed. I am suggesting that we protect my daughter while we collect the evidence necessary to apprehend a predator. Chen took a deep breath. This type of operation is risky. It would have to be approved by my supervisor. It would have to have proper equipment, not something homemade that can fail. It would have to have agents strategically positioned for immediate intervention if necessary. And most of all, her daughter would have to agree. I can't put a child in this situation against his will. Sarah felt her stomach turn. Agreeing meant explaining to Emma what was really going on. It meant taking away her innocence, making her understand that the doctor she trusted was doing something terribly wrong. But at the same time, it meant giving Emma power over her own situation. It meant stopping hiding the truth from her. She deserves to know, Sarah said finally. She deserves to understand that what he's doing isn't right, that it's not her fault, and that she can help stop him so that no other girl goes through what she's been through. Chen nodded slowly. If you decide to talk to her, do it carefully, and call me before making any final decisions. In the meantime, I'm going to talk to my supervisor about the possibility of setting up an operation. I'll need at least 24 hours to organize everything, so if we're going to do that, it has to be Thursday. There is no time to postpone. The three women left the police station with a mixture of hope and fear. They had taken the first step. Now came the hardest part. That night, after dinner, Sarah asked Emma to come and sit with her on the sofa in the living room. The girl came with the sketchbook, still holding the colored pencils. My love, Mom needs to talk to you about something very important, Sarah began, choosing her words carefully. It's about the consultations with Dr. Thompson. Emma tensed immediately, her smile fading from her face. What is it about them? Asked the small voice. Sarah held her daughter's hands gently. I know he asked you to keep secret what happens in these consultations. I know he said it's special, that it's for your good, that adults won't understand. But my love, what he's doing isn't right. Doctors should not ask children to keep secrets. Doctors shouldn't do things that make you uncomfortable or sad. Emma began to cry silently, tears streaming down her face. But he said that if I told him, I would get him in trouble, that people would think I was lying, that you were going to be mad at me. Sarah pulled Emma into a tight embrace, feeling her own heart shatter. I would never, ever be mad at you for telling the truth, she whispered, her own voice breaking. You didn't do anything wrong. None of this is your fault. Dr. Thompson is the one who is wrong. He's an adult and he's supposed to protect you, not do things that hurt you or make you sad. Emma sobbed against her mother's shoulder. He touches me in ways that hurt. Take pictures. It says it's to see if I'm growing, but it seems wrong. And I'm afraid, Mom. I'm very scared, but I didn't know how to tell it. Sarah felt anger simmering inside her, an anger so intense that it was almost physical. But he kept his voice calm and firm. You were so brave to endure this alone, but now you're not alone anymore, okay? Mommy will protect you, and let's make sure Dr. Thompson never does that to you or any other girl again. Emma pulled back a little, wiping her eyes. How? Sarah took a deep breath. There are some people, police officers, who help children, who want to stop Dr. Thompson. But they need proof. They need evidence that he really is doing wrong things. And the only way to achieve this is by recording what happens in the consultations. Emma widened her eyes. Do you want me to go back there? That I let him do that again? The voice was panicked. Sarah held her daughter's face with both hands, looking directly into her eyes. Only if you agree, only if you feel safe, and only because this time Mom and the cops will be there outside, listening to everything and ready to come in and protect you the second you need. You won't be alone this time. You'll never be alone again. Emma was silent for a long moment, processing. Finally, he asked, "If I do that, will he stop? Will you stop doing this to other girls?" Sarah nodded. "Yes, he will be arrested. He will have to answer for what he did, and other girls will be safe." Emma wiped away the remaining tears and, with a courage that broke and filled Sarah's heart at the same time, said, "So I do. I want to help. I want him to stop." Sarah hugged her daughter again, this time with tears of pride mixed with pain. "You are the bravest girl I know, and I'll be there, every second, protecting you. I promise." That night, Sarah called Detective Chen and informed her of the decision. Chen said he would begin preparations immediately. The operation was ongoing. "If you're here, it's because this story deserves to be heard. I believe that what comes next will surprise you even more. Don't leave this video before you find out how it all ended." Tuesday and Wednesday passed in a haze of preparation and anxiety. Detective Chen came to Sarah's house on Tuesday night, bringing a special outfit for Emma. It was an ordinary pink t-shirt, but sewn discreetly inside the fabric, invisible to the naked eye, was a miniature microphone connected to a transmitter the size of a button. "The range is 300 meters, Chen explained. "We will have a team in a van outside the clinic monitoring everything in real time. Also, I'm going to put 3 undercover agents in the waiting room. If at any time we realize that Emma is in real danger, we will enter immediately." Emma, who was present during the explanation, held the pink t-shirt in her hands, looking at it as if it were armor. "It will hurt?" he asked, the small voice. Chen knelt in front of her. "No, you won't even feel the microphone. It is soft and small. And remember, you're not alone in this. Your mother, me, and several other adults will be there, protecting you every second. You are very brave for doing this, Emma." Sarah saw her daughter nod, trying to be strong, and felt a mixture of immense pride and overwhelming guilt. On Wednesday, Chen returned for a rehearsal. She wanted to make sure Emma knew exactly what to do. "You enter the room as usual," Chen explained. "It acts normal, as if it were just another consultation. He doesn't talk about the microphone. He doesn't act differently. Let him do what he normally does. He speaks normally, answers his questions. The more he says, the better for us. If at any point you feel that you are in real danger, that you need to leave immediately, use the code word." "What was it?" Emma answered, her voice firmer now. "Chocolate. If I say I want chocolate, you guys come in." "Exactly," Chen said. "And remember, even if you don't use the code word, if we notice from the audio that something is wrong, we enter anyway. You are protected." Sarah watched everything with her heart in her throat, oscillating between the relief of finally doing something concrete and the horror of putting her daughter in that situation, even with protection. Thursday arrived with a grey and heavy sky, threatening rain. Sarah had barely slept. She had been staring at the ceiling all night, imagining all the possible scenarios, all the things that could go wrong. Emma was also different at breakfast, quiet and serious, fiddling with her food without eating too much. At 3 in the afternoon, Chen called. "We are positioned. The van is 2 blocks from the clinic. The 3 agents are already inside, disguised as parents waiting with children. You're all set. You can go." Sarah helped Emma put on the pink t-shirt with the microphone hidden, then layered a light sweater over it, as if it were just a normal fall outfit. He looked at his daughter and saw fear in her eyes, but also determination. Sarah knelt down and held Emma's shoulders. "Are you sure? We can still give up. We can find another way." Emma shook her head. "No, Mom, I want to do that. I want him to stop." Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead and whispered, "I love you more than anything in this world. You are my hero." They drove to the clinic in silence, Sarah with her hands clasped on the wheel, Emma looking out the window. When they parked, Sarah saw the inconspicuous van a few blocks away. He saw normal people on the street, unaware of the drama that was about to unfold. Inside the clinic, the waiting room had 3 adults Sarah didn't recognize, probably the undercover agents. They didn't make eye contact. They just kept pretending to read magazines or fiddle with their cell phones. Linda, the receptionist, smiled as always. "Hi, Emma. Hi, Mrs. Mitchell. Dr. Thompson is waiting in room 3. Emma can go straight ahead." Sarah felt her heart race. He held Emma's hand for a second longer before letting go. The girl walked down the corridor with small steps, her backpack on her back, and disappeared behind the door of room 3. Sarah returned to the blue chair and sat down, her hands visibly shaking. One of the undercover agents, a man in his 30s dressed casually, looked discreetly at her and gave a small nod. Everything was under control. They were listening. Inside room 3, Emma put her backpack on the floor and sat down on the examination table. Dr. Thompson walked in seconds later, closing the door behind him with a click. He smiled, that professional, kind smile that Emma already knew so well. "Hello, Emma. How are you today, my dear?" Emma, remembering the instructions to act normal, forced a small smile. "I'm fine, Dr. Thompson." In the van 3 blocks away, Detective Chen was with huge headphones, listening to every word, every sound. Next to her, 2 technicians recorded everything on professional equipment. In the waiting room, Sarah had her cell phone in her hand, connected on an open call with Chen, listening to a slightly delayed version of the audio. Her heart was pounding so hard, she was sure everyone in the room could hear. The first 15 minutes were relatively normal. Dr. Thompson asked about school, about how Emma was feeling, about sleep and appetite. He made her get on the scale, measured height, checked pressure. Emma answered in a low but firm voice, following the script of normal acting. Sarah, listening to everything on her cell phone, began to wonder if Chen was right, if there really was something wrong, or if she had imagined everything. And then, at 17 minutes into the consultation, the tone of Dr. Thompson's voice changed. It became lower, more intimate. "Emma, you have been a very special girl to me, very obedient, very brave. I'm proud of you for keeping our secrets." Sarah felt her blood run cold. In the van, Chen leaned forward, fully focused. Inside the room, Emma answered in a small voice. "Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Now we are going to do our special exam," continued the doctor. "Remember how we do it? You need to take off your shirt and pants so I can see how you're growing." Sarah heard the sound of fabric moving. "No, no, no," she whispered to herself, her free hand clenched into a fist. One of the undercover agents looked at her, alert. "You're so beautiful, Emma," came Dr. Thompson's voice. "So special. Let me take a picture to document your growth." Camera sound clicking. Emma, remembering the instructions, forced her voice. "It's hurting a little, Dr. Thompson," he replied, tone still low. "I know, dear, but it's necessary. You know it's for your good. And you know you can't tell anyone about it, can you? It's our special secret. If you tell them, people won't understand. They will think bad things about you." More camera sound. "Emma, now lie down here. I'll need to take a closer look." Chen shouted on the radio, "Go, go, go!" The 3 agents in the waiting room jumped to their feet. Sarah put down her cell phone and ran after them. They reached the door of the room 3 in seconds. The agent in front didn't knock. He simply turned the handle hard, but it was locked. "Police, open the door now," he shouted. Sound of rapid movement on the other side, something falling. The agent stepped back and kicked the door hard, the lock giving way with a loud crack. The door opened violently. Sarah walked right behind the officers and saw a scene that would be etched in her mind forever. Emma was on the stretcher, half naked, trying to cover her body with her arms. Dr. Thompson stood to the side, holding a digital camera, his eyes wide with shock and panic. For a split second, no one moved, so it all happened at once. "Police! Hands on head! Now!" shouted the agent, drawing his gun. Thompson took a step back, still holding the camera, his finger moving toward the buttons, clearly trying to erase the photos. "Let go of the camera," ordered another agent. Sarah ran to Emma, taking off her own coat and covering her daughter quickly, pulling her into a protective embrace. Emma began to cry, deep and desperate sobs. "Mother, mother, mother," she repeated. "It's over, my love. It's over," Sarah whispered, also crying, holding her daughter as tightly as if she could physically protect her from everything that had happened. One of the agents snatched the camera from Thompson's hands before he could push more buttons. The doctor finally raised his hands, his face pale but quickly composing himself. "You're making a mistake," he said, his voice trying to sound authoritative but coming out shaky. "This is a legitimate medical consultation. I'm a respected doctor. I have a 15-year career. You will regret it." "Shut up," the lead agent said, pulling handcuffs from his belt. "Dr. Richard Thompson, you are in prison for child sexual abuse, sexual exploitation of a minor, and possession of child pornographic material. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court." The handcuffs clicked on his wrists, and reality seemed to finally hit Thompson. No, you don't understand," he started, but another agent was already guiding him out of the room. Sarah, still holding Emma, felt her legs weak. He sat in the chair next to the stretcher, his daughter in his lap despite her size, cradling her as when she was a baby. "It's over," Sarah repeated like a mantra. "You're safe. It's over. You were so brave, so strong. Mother is here. It will always be here." Detective Chen entered the room minutes later, breathing heavily from running from the van to there. He saw Sarah and Emma hugging and stopped, giving them a moment. Then he approached, slowly. "Emma, you were incredibly brave," Chen said in a soft voice. "Because of you, he'll never do that to any other child again. You are a hero." Emma hid her face on her mother's shoulder, still crying, but Sarah saw a small nod. Linda, the receptionist, appeared at the door with a shocked expression. "What's happening? What is this confusion?" Chen turned to her. "Dr. Thompson was arrested. This clinic will be temporarily closed while we do a thorough investigation. I suggest you contact a lawyer." Linda turned pale. "Arrested? Why? What did he do?" Chen didn't answer, just indicated to her to move away. Another agent was already starting to put insulation tape in the area. Sarah finally got up, still carrying Emma even with the effort, and left the room. At the reception, there were now at least 8 policemen, some in uniform, others in plain clothes. Forensic photographers were arriving to document the scene. Sarah went through everything in a state of shock, focused only on getting Emma away, getting her daughter to safety, going home, and never returning to that place. In the car, Sarah put Emma in the back seat, fastened her seatbelt with hands that were still shaking, and drove home with excessive care, as if the whole world was glass and could break at any moment. Emma cried the whole way, and Sarah let her cry, knowing that sometimes tears were the only way to begin to process trauma. At home, Sarah bathed Emma with gentle care, washing every inch of skin as if she could also wash away the memory of that place, that man, that unwanted touch. She dressed Emma in the softest pajamas she had, made hot chocolate even though it wasn't dinner time, and sat with her daughter on the couch, just holding her, just being present. "You won't have to go back there ever again," Sarah said. "You will no longer have appointments with him. Never again." Emma nodded against her mother's breast. "He's going to be arrested for real?" he asked. "Really?" Sarah kissed her daughter's head. "Really? He was caught doing something very wrong. There is proof. There are recordings. There are photos he took. He won't be able to escape this time. And you know what? There are other girls whose mothers have also found out and are also helping to arrest him. You are not alone." Emma was silent for a long moment. "The other girls as well?" he asked finally. Sarah felt her heart tighten. "They are recovering, just like you'll recover. It takes time, my love, but we will get through this together." That night, Emma slept in Sarah's bed, something she hadn't done since she was a little girl. Sarah stayed up all night, watching her daughter sleep, seeing the occasional little spasms that indicated nightmares, ready to gently wake her up and reassure her whenever necessary. She thought of all the other times she had put Emma in that car and driven to that clinic, all the times she had delivered her daughter into the hands of that man without knowing, without realizing it. The guilt was almost unbearable, but along with guilt there was also something else. There was pride in Emma's courage. There was gratitude for having trusted his own instinct when all the voices around him said to trust medical authority. There was relief that he had acted in time before the damage was irreparable, and there was an iron determination to make sure that this never happened to any other child again. The next morning, Detective Chen called early. He wanted Sarah to know that the investigation was moving quickly. We found in his office an external hard drive hidden behind a file cabinet. It contains more than 200 photos of 12 different girls, all between 7 and 10 years old, all in various stages of nudity, all clearly taken during doctor's appointments. We have names, dates, documented evidence of years of systematic abuse. Sarah felt nauseous. 12 girls, 12 families who trusted him. Chen continued. We are already contacting the families. Some knew something was wrong, but never had the courage to speak up. Others had no idea. It's been devastating for them, but at the same time there's relief. They finally have answers. They finally have justice, Sarah asked. And him? What happens to him now? Chen replied, with grim satisfaction in his voice. He is in preventive detention without the right to bail. The judge considered him a risk of flight and danger to the community. His lawyers are already trying to mount a defense, claiming that the photos were legitimate medical documentation, but with the recording we got yesterday, with the audio of him clearly talking about secrets and telling Emma that people wouldn't understand, it's very difficult to justify it as medicine. The prosecutor is confident that he will get a conviction. We're talking about 20 to 30 years in prison, Sarah. He won't leave early. Before we continue, help bring real stories to those who really care. If you want to be part of this mission, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. In the following days, the story exploded. It started as local news in Portland newspapers, then went to television, then to national media. Respected pediatrician arrested for abuse of multiple patients. Heroin mothers expose predator who hid behind white coat. How can we trust our children's doctors? The titles varied, but the essence was always the same. Shock and horror that someone in such a position of confidence could abuse it so systematically and cruelly. Sarah received dozens of calls from journalists wanting interviews. He refused them all. It wasn't going to expose Emma any more than she had already been exposed. He wasn't going to turn his daughter's trauma into a public spectacle. But she allowed her name to be mentioned in the news reports as one of the mothers who denounced it, hoping that other mothers in similar situations would see it and find the courage to speak out as well. And they did. In the 2 weeks following Thompson's arrest, 4 more families came forward, parents who had been suspicious years ago but were convinced that they were exaggerating, mothers who saw changes in their children but were unable to connect the dots, a grandmother who had noticed marks on her granddaughter but believed her when the girl said she had fallen. Each story broke Sarah's heart because she saw Emma in each of those children. Jennifer and Michelle became Sarah's best friends during this time. The three supported each other, sharing the emotional weight of having to relive everything through interviews with investigators, through preparatory testimonies, through the constant news. They created an informal support group, meeting weekly in a small cafe away from the media, just to talk, to cry when necessary, to remind each other that they had done the right thing. Emma began intensive therapy with a psychologist who specializes in childhood trauma, Dr. Amanda Foster. The therapist explained to Sarah that the recovery would be long and non-linear. There will be good days and bad days. There will be times when she looks completely normal and happy, and other times when she will regress. She will have nightmares. She will be afraid. This is normal. This is part of the healing process. The important thing is that she knows now that it wasn't her fault, that she was brave in telling her, that she's safe. And slowly, incredibly, Emma began to improve. For the first few weeks, she was closed, tearful, having nightmares every night. But with therapy, with Sarah's constant support, with the certainty that Thompson was trapped and could no longer hurt her, he began to return. He went back to drawing, first just dark and chaotic doodles, but then returning to colourful superheroines. He smiled again, first small and hesitant smiles, then the usual wide smile. She went back to playing with friends, talking about school, being a child again. 3 months after the arrest, the case went to trial. Dr. Richard Thompson has been formally charged with 16 felonies related to child sexual abuse, exploitation of minors, and production of child pornographic material. The trial lasted 2 weeks and was closely followed by the local media. Sarah was present every day, sitting in the hard chairs of the courtroom, listening to testimony from forensic experts, investigators, the other mothers. Emma did not have to testify in person because she was a minor, but her recorded testimony with experts was presented as evidence, along with the testimonies of the other 11 girls. Thompson's lawyers tried every possible strategy. They argued that the photos were legitimate medical documentation. They suggested that the children were confused or had been influenced by their mothers. They tried to discredit the recording of the flagrant, claiming that it had been obtained in a questionable way. But the prosecution had too much evidence, too much hard evidence, too much documented standard. The jury deliberated for just 4 hours before coming back with the verdict: guilty, guilty on all counts. Sarah was holding Jennifer's hand when they heard the word, and they both cried silently, tears of relief mixed with pain for all that their daughters had been through. Thompson kept his expression neutral as the judge read out the sentence: 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole before 15 years have been served, permanent registration as a sex offender, a life ban from working with children or practicing medicine. As officers led him out of the room in handcuffs, Sarah felt as if an immense weight had finally been lifted from her shoulders. But the victory was bitter. Because even with Thompson arrested, even with justice being done, the marks he left on the 12 girls remained. Sarah saw it in Emma, in the moments when her daughter woke up screaming in the middle of the night, in the days when she refused to go to school because she had a routine doctor's appointment with a new pediatrician, and the fear returned. I saw in the other mothers in the support group, in the way they all carried guilt for not having realized before, for having trusted when they should have questioned. Portland's medical community has also been shaken. The Healthy Kids Pediatrics Clinic closed permanently 3 months after Thompson's arrest. Linda, the receptionist, gave an interview saying that she never suspected anything, that Thompson always seemed professional and careful, that she was horrified that she had been part of that system without knowing it. Other clinics in the region have implemented new policies requiring parents to always have the option to be present during exams, creating double-checking systems, training staff to identify warning signs. Sarah has become, against her own will, a kind of spokesperson for other mothers. I received messages almost daily from women around the country who had suspicions about doctors, coaches, teachers, family members, women who were struggling with the same conflict she had faced, instinct saying one thing, society saying another. She responded to every message, offered advice based on what she had learned, reminded them that trusting the maternal instinct was not paranoia, it was protection. 6 months after the trial, Sarah was invited to give a talk at a child protection conference in Seattle. Initially, she refused. She didn't feel qualified. She didn't want to relive everything publicly. But Emma, with surprising wisdom for a 9-year-old, said something that changed Sarah's perspective. "Mum, if you tell our story, maybe other girls don't have to go through what I went through." Perhaps other mothers will notice the signs sooner. Wouldn't that be worth it? So Sarah went. He went on stage trembling, looking at an audience of 200 people, including health professionals, educators, parents, and defenders of children's rights. And he told the story. He told about the frequent consultations, about the secrets, about the tightness in his chest that he ignored for too long. He told of Emma's courage, of Jennifer and Michelle's support, of Detective Chen's determination. He told about the trial, about the sentence, about the recovery journey. When it was over, there were tears on many faces in the audience, but there was also something more. There was understanding, there was validation. 3 women came to Sarah afterwards, saying they were going through similar situations and didn't know if they were exaggerating. Now they knew they weren't. They knew that their instincts deserved to be heard. Sarah gave each of them her phone number and Detective Chen's contact number, offering support and guidance. This lecture led to others. Sarah began to receive invitations from schools, parents' groups, and community organizations. He never charged anything. He did it as a mission, as a way to transform pain into purpose. And in each lecture, the message was always the same. Trust your gut. Question authority when necessary. Believe the children when they speak. Act before it's too late. The 12 families whose daughters were victims of Thompson created a formal support group, meeting monthly in a room borrowed by a local church. They shared healing strategies, recommended therapists, supported each other on difficult days. Some of the girls became friends, bonded by an experience no one should have to share, but finding strength in connection. Emma went to these meetings with Sarah and, little by little, began to talk about what had happened, no longer with shame or fear, but with a growing understanding that it had not been her fault. Sarah also began therapy to deal with her own guilt and trauma. The therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Rebecca Martinez, worked with Sarah for months, helping her process the anger she felt at herself for not realizing it sooner, for taking Emma to those appointments, for trusting when she should have questioned. Rebecca said repeatedly, "You had no way of knowing. He was an expert in manipulation, had years of practice deceiving entire families. What matters is not how long it took to realize. What matters is that you noticed, trusted your instinct, and acted. You saved your daughter. He saved other children. That's not failure, Sarah. This is heroism." Gradually, Sarah began to believe this. He began to release the guilt he carried as a physical weight. She began to see her own story not as a series of failures, but as a journey of growing courage, from a mother who refused to accept what everyone said was normal when her heart knew it wasn't. 2 years after Thompson's arrest, Emma was noticeably better. At 11, she was a quieter, more serious girl than she would have been without the trauma, but she was growing, healing, living. He returned completely to drawing, now creating a comic series about a superheroine called Voice, who had the power to make adults listen when children spoke. The drawings were surprisingly profound for someone so young, depicting situations where children tried to tell about bad things but were not believed, until Voice appeared and amplified their voices. The therapist said that it was a crucial part of Emma's healing, transforming powerlessness into power through art. Sarah guarded each drawing carefully, seeing in them not only her daughter's artistic talent, but the emotional journey she was taking. In one of the drawings, Voz was hugging a small girl, while a man in a white coat was led by police officers in the background. Emma had written underneath, in her careful handwriting, "Sometimes to be brave is to be very afraid, but to do the right thing anyway." Sarah looked at that drawing and thought, "Yes, my love, that's exactly it. Courage is not being afraid. It is to be afraid and act in any way. It's you. It's all the girls who have spoken. It's all the mothers who believed. It is all of us who refuse to be silent." Today, Sarah looks back and recognizes that those months were the darkest of her life, but they were also the ones that transformed her. She is no longer the same woman who took Emma to those appointments blindly trusting titles and reputations. It's stronger, more vigilant, more connected with her own instinct. And she carries with her 3 lessons that she shares with all the mothers she meets, 3 truths that she learned the hard way. First lesson, trust your maternal instinct. If something seems wrong, it's probably wrong. It doesn't matter how many people tell you that you're overreacting, that you're being overprotective, that you're seeing problems where there aren't any. If your mother's heart is screaming that something isn't right, investigate, question. Don't let authority, reputation, or social pressure silence that inner voice that exists precisely to protect your children. Second lesson, predators hide behind respectable masks. Dr. Thompson had 15 years of impeccable career. It was recommended by dozens of families. He had certificates hanging on the wall, smiled gently, spoke in a professional tone. And behind it all, he was a systematic predator who abused at least 12 girls for years. Titles do not guarantee character. Diplomas do not guarantee security. Reputation is not above the protection of a child. Always question, always verify, always trust evidence and behaviors, not appearances. Third lesson, it is never too late to act. Sarah carried guilt for months for not having realized before, for having taken Emma to 3 appointments before actually acting. But her therapist said something that changed everything. You acted in time. He saved his daughter before the damage was irreparable. And in doing so, he saved other children as well. It doesn't matter if you notice it on the first day or the 100th. What matters is that you perceive and act. Every day that a predator is stopped is a day when children are safer. The 12 families meet every month. They share small victories. The daughter who finally slept through the night without nightmares. The girl who genuinely smiled again, the child who managed to go to a doctor's appointment without having a panic attack. They also share the difficult days, because the cure is not linear, it has advances and setbacks. But they are together. No mother goes through that alone. 11-year-old Emma knows things that children shouldn't have to know. He knows that adults can be dangerous. He knows that authority can be abused. He knows that secrets can be weapons of manipulation. But he also knows precious things. You know that your voice matters. He knows that telling the truth, even when it's terrifying, is the right way. She knows that her mother will always believe in her, will always protect her, will always be by her side. And you know that she was brave, that she helped other children, that she made a difference. Sarah continues to give lectures, now not only about her case, but about warning signs in general, about how to create environments where children feel safe to speak, about the importance of education, about body limits from an early age. She and Emma have open conversations about what is appropriate and inappropriate touch, about the fact that no adult, no matter the position, has a right over a child's body. Emma now understands that a good secret is a birthday surprise or a Christmas present. A secret that causes discomfort, fear, or shame is not a secret. It is manipulation and needs to be told immediately. Sarah and Emma's story is not unique. It happens with frightening frequency in every community, in every social class, in every place where children interact with adults in positions of power, but it is a story of triumphant courage, of a mother who refused to accept the unacceptable, of a girl who found her voice, of justice being done, of a predator finally stopped. Dr. Richard Thompson is serving his 25-year sentence. At the age of 52, when he was arrested, he will be at least 67 when he is eligible for parole, if he can get it at all. He is permanently registered as a sex offender. He will never be able to practice medicine again. He will never have access to children again. The girls he hurt are healing, growing, rebuilding their lives. Some faster, others slower, but all surrounded by families who now know, who believe, who protect. And Sarah remains vigilant. He continues to trust instinct. She continues to be that mother who questions, who investigates, who does not accept vague answers when it comes to her daughter's safety, because he learned the most important lesson of all. Mothers are not born to be naive. They are born to be warriors, and sometimes the courage of a single mother can change the fate of dozens of children. This true story happened in Portland, Oregon, but it could have happened anywhere. It happens in your city, in your community, perhaps closer than you think. If you are a mother, father, grandmother, aunt, educator, anyone who has children in life, pay attention. Trust the signs, listen to the children, believe in instinct, question authority when necessary, because in the end, the safety of our children is worth more than any social discomfort, more than any reputation, more than anything. Sarah always ends her talks by saying the same. Being a mother is not just about loving, it is protecting. And protecting sometimes means being inconvenient, insistent, that annoying mother who asks a lot of questions. But when you hug your child at night and know they're safe, nothing else matters. Absolutely nothing. Emma draws, Sarah protects. Together they build a future where trauma does not define who they are, but where the courage they have had defines what they can become. And somewhere, other girls are safer, because a mother trusted her own heart when everyone told her she was wrong, because he didn't give up, because he fought, because he loved strong enough to face the unimaginable. This is the story of Sarah and Emma, but it's also the story of Jennifer and Lily, of Michelle and Grace, of all the other mothers and daughters who have found the courage to speak out, to fight, to survive. It's a reminder that maternal instinct isn't paranoia. It is the oldest and most reliable alarm system in the world, and when it fires, it's worth listening to. Don't go out. Take the next step in this journey by watching the next video on our channel, which will appear here on the screen in a moment. In it, we will continue to discover real stories that touch the heart and make us reflect on what really matters. Stories of courage, of overcoming, of maternal love that knows no limits. If this story impacted you, if it made you think differently about child protection, about trusting instinct, about the importance of listening to children, share it with other mothers, with other fathers, with all the people who have children in their lives. Because knowledge is protection, and the more people know the signs, the more children will be safe. A big hug, and see you in the next heartwarming story that can change the way you see the world.